my pleasure to be joined by Markus Kugelhaus, who is the Director of Trend Research for DHL Customer Solutions and Innovation, and Steve Brady, who is the CEO of Supply Chain Innovations today. As I asked Steve and Markus to introduce themselves, I'm going to ask them to also kickstart the discussion by telling us why they've become interested in augmented reality, and then after that, their interpretation of what augmented reality is to them. So I'm going to go to Steve first, I think, and ask you just to introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Yeah, I am CEO of Supply Chain Innovations today. We're a small supply chain consultancy here in the United States that's been doing a lot of work in radio frequency identification space, passive and active RFID, inventory work, and just generally engaging in supply chain technologies. And we have innovations in the name, and so one of the things we do is try to look forward and figure out technologies and innovations in technologies for supply chain that go both in the big direction and also in the small direction. So if you've been following me at all as a commentator or a contributor to the EFT.com site, you'll know that I've looked at Internet of Things, and we've written about Internet of Things not only for big companies, but how could Internet of Things perhaps help a small company? How is big data something that's both useful for large and small companies, and what are the tools available there? So we try to find innovations that are useful across the spectrum, small, medium, and large. I was also have been a Google Glass explorer. I think, Sarah, that's how you and I met when I came and talked about Google Glass. So I joined the Google Glass Explorer program specifically to look at how Google Glass and that type of technology could be useful in logistics and other supply chain related areas. I did serve 20 years in the United States Air Force. I retired as a lieutenant colonel. My general area was logistics, but I finished the last 6 years of my career as a faculty member at the Air Force Institute of Technology. In order to be on that position, the Air Force had sent me to get my PhD in business logistics, which later became supply chain at Penn State University. So I've got this background in logistics, operational issues. So we tie all of that together in finding ways to make technology work. So we fix real problems with technology. We don't find technology and try to make it fit a solution. Oh, and you can follow me on Twitter if you'll see that there at FCM Professor.
Okay, brilliant. And Markus, I think I'm going to go over to you now.
Yep, I'll use the slide to shortly introduce myself. Markus Kugelhaus. I'm working for DHL, leading the DHL Trend Research team. Our slogan is delivering insights today, creating value tomorrow. So we always try to look into the future and see what impact is it going to take for the logistics industry. We're a small team located here near the headquarters in Bonn, Germany, and we are part of the DHL Customer Solution and Innovation team. So we are part of the huge customer account team that DHL is driving. As a small trend research team, we're trying to leverage the creativity and the innovativeness of all our colleagues, of the 480,000 employees split around the divisions. So we try to gather also all the insights from our divisions, be it Express, e-commerce, parcel, or global forwarding, freight, or supply chain. We try to look at trends in a very structured approach. So we always look at mega trends, micro trends, startups, partners, and customers. And what we do with all these sources, we try to put a logistics filter on top of that and derive one instrument that we mainly use for looking at trends, which is our DHL Logistics Trend Radar. This is our main instrument to see what are actually the trends that are impacting our industry. On the left-hand side, you see the social and business trends. On the right-hand side, the technology trends, and we also differentiate the ones that we see in the nearer horizon or the further horizon. And as you can see, augmented reality is one of the topics that we see as quite important, impacting the logistics industry, and it's on the nearer horizon. So we see this trend affecting our industry in the nearer future within the next 5 years. If we see such a topic, what we do, we always try to follow a very strict value chain. So we identified this trend of augmented reality in our trend radar. As a second step, we published a trend report on this topic in 2014, always looking at the trend itself, looking at best practices at other industries, and then seeing what are the implications for our industry. The third step of our value chain is always trying to make things tangible at a very early stage. So we have at the Innovation Center here, which is a platform of DHL where about 5,000 customers of ours visit us each year. We try to make things tangible, so we have showcases where we can showcase how augmented reality works and applications that we see. And the last step of our value chain is the proof of concept. There we just successfully piloted the topic for vision picking together with our colleagues from supply chain and RICO end of last year, and this to us was just the beginning of the journey for augmented reality, where we see this topic really just picking up momentum and where we want to drive it from here onwards, not just for warehouse applications but along the entire supply chain where we see applications for this technology. So that's just a short introduction myself and how we look at this topic.
Okay, so it truly is something that you're working on heavily and something that you definitely see affecting the industry, which brings me to, I guess I'll ask you now, Marcus, what are the primary ways that you're seeing that augmented reality is going to change the way that logistics is conducted? You said it goes right across the value chain.
Yeah, I mean, I see it mainly as a new interface, and to logistics is always interesting if we have solutions that can work hands-free, because if people have to work with any type of device in their hand, be it a barcode scanner or anything else, or paperless or whatever, that distracts them from, doing their real job of, moving things or packing things, sorting things. So whenever we get the chance for people to work hands-free, that's the main advantage, and that is picking up the aspect of augmented reality, that we can use smart glasses, so use a new interface with smart glasses to make processes more efficient and more reliable. That's where we see the main benefit of this technology.
Mm-hmm. And Steve, do you agree with those ways? Do you see anything extra?
Well, I certainly do. In fact, the biggest benefit I've enjoyed having had Google Glass and in the conversations I've had with people is the fact that most of what you can do is hands-free, whether it's by just nodding your head to turn it on or turn it off, or just speaking a command when it's up and just saying, okay, Glass, and executing a command and running a program. The hands-free nature of it has been very, very useful. Of course, there's also the little creepy thing if you want to wink and take a picture, that's hands-free as well. So you can do all those sorts of things, but the nice part about the camera being involved in that process is, yeah, you can take a picture by winking or saying take a picture, but then when you can send that to someone, it allows you to share your reality with someone else. So you're augmenting the reality of somebody else sitting at a desk somewhere by giving them a little piece of what's going on with you where you are. One of the things that I look at when I see augmented reality is I start trying to figure out down the road, how are we going to start tying and augmenting my reality or allow me to be part of somebody else's reality. And so I'm kind of looking at those next couple of steps down the road. How can we start tying this to drones or self-driving vehicles? How can we start using augmented reality and embedding it with the concept of 3D printing? And then how can we do it with maybe an Internet of Things type of arrangement? So in each of those areas, I'm kind of taking that next step and seeing what Microsoft has recently revealed with their, I don't quite have the name right, Marcus, is it the HoloLens? Is that
the HoloLens, yep. Mm-hmm.
HoloLens. The idea that they've been demonstrating how you can be on Mars and it integrates with the arrangement in your room so you can walk around things. NASA's going to be using it with JPL to actually control the rovers on Mars. I start looking at that type of technology and say if you tie that with drone delivery or self-driving vehicles that are going to be going out and following routes, you can be in a single location and kind of put yourself in those vehicles and control those vehicles or see what they're experiencing. So there's some interesting ways, not tomorrow, not next year, and maybe not in 5 years, but down the road where we can start to see this augmented reality really transforming the logistics operation.
Yeah. If I may add one aspect, I mean, in the past, I mean, we're such a network business, so whenever we want to apply a new technology, we typically have to apply it to our entire network. So that's why in the past, logistics has not been the most innovative industry, and in the past, a lot of times we've been talking about rather, full automation versus, manual handling processes. And I think with having a new interface, it's helping people to do their job, but it's still not having the inflexibility of a fully automated warehouse or process. So I think it's just really that man-machine interaction where it helps. Especially for an industry that is highly networked, and I think that's really also one aspect where augmented reality and glasses as a new interface can really add value that is specific to this industry of logistics.
Mm-hmm. And so, Marcus, you've given us a time frame of the next 5 years. Steve, you said maybe not in the next 5 years, maybe later. But I think you both agree that it is inevitable. Am I right in saying that?
I mean, we're using it now. I mean, so I think it's just a matter how fast it is coming out of the niche and to what applications we're going to use it for. So we are actually using it already now for some of our warehouse processes. So take the topic of vision picking. I mean, here we did the first pilots. We could see that we have about 25% efficiency gains, very good ratings on usability of the devices already by the pickers. So there we see it's not the future anymore. It's already present. The key question is how fast will it move out of the niche? And there we see quite a few applications and very promising applications within our warehouse processes. So take all the sorting processes, assembly processes, repair and maintenance processes, all those processes where if you get guided step by step, it is much easier, and you get like visual support for doing your task in a better way, looking at the quality, and also in a more efficient way. So to me, it is not a question of when, it's just a question of how far. And there, yes, so far it is just a niche application, but we see it as becoming more relevant, and not just for warehouse processes, but also for other processes. Take loading, unloading processes, where you exactly know where to place a package. Take delivery process, so a delivery person automatically knows which parcel to take because he's guided by his smart glasses to see, okay, this is exactly the product that I need to take. Or take processes like handover processes for a delivery person, where you can also, see that or document that a parcel has been delivered. It has been delivered without any damage. So there are many applications that we see along the entire supply chain. We just see the first major applications in the warehouse, but then slowly we also see this technology moving out of the warehouse.
Okay. That's a very interesting concept. I hadn't even thought about the idea of using a Google Glass type of device to record the delivery of a product or a package to a house. I mean, somebody delivers something to my house, UPS or DHL, and they say I signed for it, but there's no evidence, and you don't even have my signature. Now you can have a picture taken of leaving it on the doorstep. This is my address. Yeah, that's my house. It was there. And you can just document that way. When I think about augmented reality, one of the things that I think differentiates this from virtual reality, which we've all seen in gaming and training environments, is the fact that I can take what I'm seeing right now and put something else on top of it. And so the easiest thing to demonstrate in Google Glass for people when I just take it off and share it when I'm at the coffee shop and they want to try it is the application Explore the Stars. And they look up and they can see they're overlaying the names of the stars or the planets as you look up at the sky. And if it wasn't sunny out and clouds, you'd see that in the middle of the day. That's the star that would be up there. The same, in my mind, would be true when you're walking through a vehicle lot and I need to identify a vehicle. Just put, if you know where you are in relation to the vehicles, and tie this in perhaps with RFID, where you start giving me information about the vehicles as I look at the vehicles. Or you start sharing information about what's around the corner so that I can get a sense of where I'm going. You're augmenting my existing reality with additional information, overlaying it in my field of view. And I think there's just a wide spectrum of ways we can see those things play out, whether it's in a vehicle yard or in the warehouses you all are doing, or even on the highway. I mean, if you get notified ahead of time that there's an incident down the highway a piece, and you can divert, not only do you see it show up on the map that there's an accident, but perhaps overlaying it with perspective onto the highway itself. It could be a very interesting way of transforming how we see the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, Steve, I know you're a huge advocate of Google Glass, so just wanted to touch on that a little bit. Just wondering.
I am vested.
You did. Just wondering why you think it failed to take off, and does that have an effect on the process of augmented reality? Does it represent a speed bump?
I don't think it failed to take off. It was always in the Google X division. Mm-hmm. Google X is the division for experimental things, and it was always in there. And we were part of the Google Explorer program, and it was a beta program. And if anybody bought into that program and didn't know it was a beta program, that's their own fault. We paid a high price, literally a high price for a product that only cost $100 to make. They created barriers to entry on their own. They limited it to 8,000 people, well, 3,000 at first, then 8,000. And the whole intention of this was to see where it could go, but it was not a commercial product. Now, they've shut down the Google X division, but what they've done is they've moved the product and the team lead out of Google X, and they're moving Google Glass as a concept into the division that commercializes products, led by the guy who created the Nest thermostat. So you might, I don't know if you have in Germany and if you have in the UK, the same TV show we have here called The Biggest Loser. Mm-hmm. On that TV show, at the end of it, they'll kick somebody out and say, "You, Steve, you're not the biggest loser. Go home." And at the end of it, Steve will stand up and say, "When you see me again, America, I will be 100 pounds lighter." Well, Google Glass, I think, just kind of got kicked out of the farmhouse and is told, and they're saying, when you see us again, we're going to be hopefully $1,200 cheaper. Because that really was the thing. What kept them out of the hands of every person is the price point. And I think that was intentional.
Marcus, do you agree?
Yeah, well, I'm not. I'm just not such a Google Glass fan in the first place. I think what it did, it created a big hype about smart glasses, and what it also did is that a lot of other players entered the market. And if you look at the market today of devices, there's just a huge variety, and not just aiming at consumers, but also more at industry applications. And that's where I think Google just paved the roads for all the other players. And if we, as a logistics player, if we look at devices that we would use for our environment, we're looking at other devices. We're not primarily focusing on Google Glass to be used, but we're looking at other devices, see-through devices, more ruggedized versions of smart glasses, and we're also in contact with some of the providers that mentioned to us that they're going to bring new versions out to the market very soon. So we see already today a wide variety of devices, and in the near future we see even more coming out that would fit our our environment. So being, able to be used in a rough environment, having longer battery lifetime, see-through binocular devices, including other sensors like depth sensors that we can also use for pretty much getting the pictures, three-dimensional pictures of the environment that we're working in. So we see a huge step of development of the devices, and that we see as that this was being started by Google Glass. So we don't even care, whether Google Glass was a success or not. We just see that it started a process, and now we have devices on the market that we can use for our environment, and that to us is a quite big success story. And I could also imagine that maybe Google is also looking at those applications in the near future if they, change their strategy now. But what it always does is if the consumer world, if they start with certain devices, then those devices become much more cheaper, and if we then use them for industry applications, the burden of a high investment is much lower. So also other glasses that you can see on the market now, take the Epson Moverio, or take the Vuzix glasses, or the Meta space glasses. I mean, those are all glasses that are that cost less than the Google glasses, but are also applicable in a rougher environment. So that's where we see that Google paved that road also for those other devices to come up on the market.
That's interesting. So you went, instead of a speed bump analogy on the highway, you think they actually took a dirt road and made it?
Absolutely. I mean, they made it for other players to enter the market. So even if we're not maybe using Google Glasses now, or not least not the current version of it, I mean, we're using the Vuzix glasses, we're using the Epson glasses, so and other glasses that just jumped on that train and just broadened the spectrum of devices that are available now.
Yeah, not to make this a conversation about Google, but I think all along what Sergey Brin was hoping to do was start the conversation with this, just the way you're talking about it, and they really did jumpstart that.
Yep.
And it's really interesting to see the way the innovative ideas that came out of having this discussion started 2.5, 3 years ago has broadened into other products, all the ones you were listing, and then of course the HoloLens from Microsoft, and even some of the other virtual reality, augmented reality types of things that you're seeing that just integrate in with smartphones. So, Marcus, I'm kind of curious, where do you see the 5 or 10 year picture with virtual reality, not necessarily glass, but augmenting what we see and do?
I mean, if I go along our supply chain, I see it happening a lot in the warehouse. So picking processes, sorting process, you get visual aid, you get navigation support, you get support what to take. We're even thinking of how to identify products without even using a barcode scan. Using image recognition and other technologies that can be used with smart glasses. So I see a lot happening within the warehouse, and that will be in the near future. Moving outside of the warehouse, as I said, those loading and unloading processes, if they are combined with intelligent loading algorithms, what I always say is we all know the game of Tetris. So Tetris to me is an ideal algorithm how to staple things and how to load and unload things in the most efficient way. If you use something like the Tetris application for a loading and unloading process, and you give visual support of the person who's doing the loading and unloading, I think we can make this process much more efficient and also gain capacity, because it's just being done in an ideal algorithm. So there we see applications for loading, unloading, and taking the last mile delivery in the logistics processes. I mean, just think of using augmented reality also on your windshield. So get additional information, what has been loaded, what's your next stop where you have to go, have dynamic tour planning included on your windshield, take the delivery person using some type of smart glasses, getting last meter navigation, so exactly knowing, okay, this is the address I need to go to, so I have to go 100 meters straight and then turn right. Then looking at the house, he knows exactly where to put it, because people can, set different places where they want the parcels to be delivered, and then the delivery person gets navigated to especially this place. If he puts it there, it gets documented that he put it there. So those I see, but those I see a bit further in the future. Those I see probably rather in 5 years than in 1 year, and the warehouse applications I see as of today and within the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I'm wondering how we might be able to see augmented reality also transition into the raw material and manufacturing side of operations and supply chain. Not only the loading and delivery. You mentioned the loading of the vehicle. I could see it now where I'm looking at augmented reality and I watch a box fly up in the air and slide into a slot, and it tells me now pick that box, and that's where you're going to put that box, and that's how you're going to orient the box. That's an awesome idea, just to show it to me and so then I can go and do it. But I'm also thinking, I notice you all have been looking at trends in 3D printing, and Sarah, you know I wrote the intro and conclusion to the packet you all have on 3D printing. Augmenting reality there where I can use, as Marcus, you were saying, get the 3 dimensions, maybe take a scan or dimensions using augmented reality of an existing product, use my augmented reality to then extrapolate that product, show me other ways I can use that item, and then take that information and feed that to a 3D printer so that I can transform augmented reality into real reality, actual reality. So then print that product and see if it works, and then kind of iterate between augmented and real reality would be an interesting way of seeing some of these technologies collide.
Yeah, I mean, we see that, yes, augmented reality is a good step when it comes to also sensors and depth sensors and volume scanning. So we see some applications running into the 3D sphere. When it comes to 3D printing, I mean, we also looked at that. That's just from the product range that you can use right now or that qualify for 3D printing. We see this on our trend radar more in a time frame of above 5 years. So that's why, taking core AR applications, we don't see the connection with 3D printing in the next 5 years. Eventually we'll see it, yes, but not within the next 5 years. So there we're a bit more skeptical.
Right. Well, just moving on from that slightly, I wanted to ask for your advice for any companies who are looking to make this case to the senior management team. How do you go about making the ROI case to them? Marcus, I guess you're well placed to answer this, seeing as you're actually doing it at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, my advice would be start with very concrete use cases, see. And also start with niche applications where you see that the technology fits. Start with rather simple use cases. So a lot of times just a visual aid, where to pick it, where to put it, that helps pickers to be much more efficient. And if you start with simple applications, and if you start with the devices that are on the market right now, I mean, we see that we can make the business case already today, so we don't have to wait. We have amortization rates below 3 years for those applications, and I mean, we're not. I mean, in the past we've seen this in our industry struggling when we have very long payback periods, and if we talk about full automation and if we talk high investments, we always struggle to bring in this technology due to the long payback periods. I don't see this actually for augmented reality if you apply it for the right application. So for those niche markets and those niche applications that I mentioned, I see an ROI being very reasonable already today.
Okay.
You just need to start.
You
need to start.
You just need to give it a go. Yeah.
Well, I agree, and one of the things that I think could really help with this is if you view augmented reality as a whole new system that you have to bring in, and we're not talking about an ERP system here where you have to integrate it across the whole corporation, across every facet of the business, and so it's a huge investment as you go in. If you're able to find a device and partner with the right providers, technology providers, and come up with a way to go forward with some of these niche ideas, you might be able to say, look, this is just a piece of hardware. I already have data that's being collected throughout my system, so I just need to find a way to integrate this one device into the existing system so that I can get more information out of what I already have. Use that data to augment what I'm already doing. And I think that sounds like what you're doing, Marcus, is you're taking the existing data and you're feeding it to the employees in a new way. And so it really lowers the barriers to entry to some of these ideas and innovation.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we're not setting up a new warehouse management system, so we're using the existing one, just built the right interfaces that the needed information is being put on the glasses, and then the needed information is being sent back to the warehouse management system. But we're not talking about complex new IT systems, and that's what also makes the ROI quite interesting, already taking the existing technologies.
Okay, and so on that note, you're saying the payback period is quite quick. So do you think that this is something that is available for everybody rather than just the major players in the industry? Do you think that it will become so commoditized, consumerized over time that it will be open for most people to just be able to take hold of it and use it?
I mean, it's nothing you can buy off the shelf right now. So whatever you start, you need to pilot it. You need to set up the applications. The applications need to fit to your environment. Yes. So of course, it is probably easier for companies such as DHL to pilot it in one place, knowing if it's successful, we can scale it up. The fixed costs of trying it out and piloting it is not that bad, because we can scale it up to many warehouses potentially. So yes, I guess it will be easier for the bigger ones to start this, but I don't think it's a showstopper for smaller ones either. So if you are a smaller logistic provider that is willing to test out new technologies, I think augmented reality is one of the technologies that also smaller logistics providers could start with.
Yeah, I think a lot's going to depend on how you view your company's perspective. Are you a company that you position yourself as an innovator and someone that's on the leading edge and provides benefit by being there, or are you providing the low-cost solution that we're reliable, we're consistent, and we don't do a whole lot of bells and whistles and frills, and so we come at you from a different angle? They're not going to be the ones that are going to be early adopters. They're going to be laggers in this. I think one of the challenges we're going to face when we look at small, medium, and large is that the smaller logistics operations, typically tied to a small manufacturing organization, really don't even have the IT infrastructure in place that would easily integrate with something like this. The smaller companies are not going to have an SAP or a BON implementation. They can't hook into those as quickly or as easily as others might. Maybe some of the clients I've been working with lately, they're still using Excel to manage organizations that are really too large to be managed on Excel. So they're not going to be able to make that jump as easily.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, so we've had a good discussion so far. Do you want to close out with anything? Is there any final thing that you want to mention, either of you?
I mean, from my point of view, we doing the pilot, we were very positively surprised. So I mean, we started this topic about one and a half years ago with doing that deep dive. And we didn't expect such a huge success by testing it out. So we were actually, when we started it, we thought it would take a bit longer. But having done this pilot now, we're really excited about the results. We're really excited about also other applications where we can now also do pilots. We're starting new pilots now in March for sorting processes. So we're trying to, apply it to other processes, and I think it's just the beginning of a very exciting journey, and I think augmented reality can really play quite a big part in being a new and great technology to support us in our industry.
That's exciting. This sounds very good.
Yeah,
Steve?
absolutely positive.
Yeah, really good. Steve, your thoughts for the future, some closing comments?
I really wish we had something we could argue about and disagree on here, Marcus, but I'm really excited about what you guys are doing. I think you guys are really setting the stage here for the future, specifically in these niche areas you've identified. I wish I had a little more resources available to me so we could explore some of these other ideas that are not necessarily on the trend line yet, but some of the integrations of augmented reality with some of the other things that are on the trend line. But I'm very interested in seeing how, as thought leaders, we all can help shape this perspective and shape this move into augmented reality. There's a lot of opportunity here in the next 10, 15, and 20 years.
Okay, so the message here is, I think you just summed it up, Steve. There's a lot of opportunity to be had, and it's a long but exciting road. I think. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yep, absolutely.
Excitement. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I'm very excited to see where your journey goes, Marcus, and also you, Steve, and whether you're still going to be a Google Glass advocate in a few years. I'm sure you still will be. And I'll see you in April, and you'll be wearing them then, correct?
Yep,